We're making a creamy and delicious pecan pie cheesecake. So let's get started. First off, I need 12 crushed graham crackers. That's 1 3/4 cups if you're buying them pre-crushed. You can whiz them in a food processor or just crush them, and it's up to you. Okay. I actually like crushing these by hand because you get some larger pieces in there which kind of give you a little bit of extra texture. I don't like them all finely ground up, almost like they're flour. No. Okay. I know a lot of you don't have graham crackers hanging around, especially if you're watching this from someplace other than the US. I want to tell you, you can use any kind of crumbly cookie. Biscoff or speculoos are really popular, but like shortbread cookies work really well too. So all together that is 180 grams. My scale is done, and right now I'm adding a 1/4 teaspoon of salt to give us a little bit of contrast. 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Pack it in and dump it out. Actually gonna mix that together first with my handy dandy built-in whisk. If you haven't already, set your oven to 350. The crust is gonna bake up really fast. And to hold this mixture together, I'm adding in a 1/4 cup or 57 grams of melted butter. This is unsalted butter, but if you only have salted butter at home, don't add that 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We're gonna mix this all together, and while I do that, I just wanna tell you, this cheesecake is like magic. It is the best delicious cheesecake you could ask for, but on top you have piles of pecans that are wrapped in caramel, and it's like a pecan pie and a cheesecake had the most delicious baby ever, and you're gonna eat it. And you're gonna eat it. It's like a pecan pie and a cheesecake had a delicious food hybrid that you will enjoy. I'm using my clean hands to mix this together. This is annoying. Like, you have little clumps of butter, you want to break them up. Just use your fingers, it's totally fine. Especially because the test to see if this is done is to grab a handful and squeeze it. And if it holds together like this, you know it's ready. If it just crumbles, it's not ready. And if you accidentally added a little bit too much of the cracker or cookie, purposefully add in a little bit more butter. Grab a 9-inch springform pan, and by now your oven should be nice and toasty. So we're going to plop this right in. Give it a little shimmy. Now you're gonna use a flat-bottomed glass or a flat-bottomed measuring cup and just press it down. We also want a little bit of a border. You don't have to have crumbs going all the way up. Flatten and maneuver the crumbs where you want them, and then you're gonna get to pressing. These crusts only hold together with a little bit of force, so once the crumbs are where you want them, press, 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 press. Okay. This goes into the oven for 10 minutes. It'll be really fragrant and amazing. While it bakes, we'll make our filling. Into the bowl of your stand mixer, fitted with a paddle attachment or a big bowl if you're using a hand mixer, I'm adding 3 blocks that are 8 ounces each of room temperature cream cheese. Your cream cheese shouldn't be cold because that is a recipe for lumps, and if you put ice cold things into an oven, it's not gonna bake up nice, especially when it's a cheesecake. You wanna have the most flat, calm, beautiful layer ever on top. We're gonna mix this on medium-low for about a minute just to cream the cream cheese up nice and creamy. Then we'll add in the sugar and the rest of the ingredients. You don't want to mix this on high because it'll whip a ton of air into the cream cheese, which will lead to cracking and a texture that's not as silky smooth as you'd like. While it's creaming up, I'll measure out 1 cup of granulated sugar. It's 200 grams. All creamed up, I'm adding my sugar in right now. 1 cup. I'm also plopping in a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. It'll give us a little bit of contrast. This looks fully incorporated. I'm gonna scrape the bowl down. I'm gonna tell you, any problems you're having a cheesecake are happening at the bottom of your bowl. That's where stuff isn't mixed in, that's where lumps are hiding, and a place of general nonsense. So give it a good mix a couple times throughout this mixing process. It's time for 1/3 cup of sour cream. This is gonna lighten our cheesecake and give it some tang and just make it that much more creamy and amazing. One of the reasons cheesecakes are so delicious is there's a wonderful play of sweet and creamy and tangy working together, and a lot of the tang is gonna come from the sour cream. All right, We're gonna mix that in, and while that's happening, I'm adding 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. So good. While that mixes in, I'm cracking 3 room temperature large eggs into a bowl. It's optional, but you can break these eggs up right now and just give them a little bit of a head start or mix. Now pour the eggs in one at a time, or in my case, a little bit in at a time. Let the first bit incorporate, and then it is definitely time for a scrape down because the center of this is like smooth and luscious, but the outside is much stiffer with a lot of like pure white cream cheese and sugar on the bottom. I just remembered this recipe needs 4 cups of boiling water for the bake, so there we are, that's all set. Continue adding those eggs in. All right, that's mostly mixed in. I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of flour right now. It'll help stabilize the cake, but you worked so hard to have no lumps, and now you're gonna dump flour in? No. That's not a good idea. So instead, you're gonna gently sift the flour in as it mixes, which is not very easy, but you can sift a little bit in right now. Sift, sift, sift. And now as it mixes, just tap, 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 tap. It's a little bit of work, but so annoying to have these persistent lumps of flour stuck in your cheesecake batter. That's all mixed up nicely, but I will be doing a final scrape and check just to look for any hidden bits. My crust came out of the oven while I was making the filling. It smells amazing and it's nice and set because it baked together with that butter. Oh, okay, my water is ready. Nice and boiling. We're gonna get this filled up and get to baking. Pour that smooth, luscious filling into the crust. Give your cheesecake a shimmy just to level things out and get rid of any kind of lumps and bumps. This bakes up at 325 for 40 minutes, but we're gonna add all that boiling water into a casserole dish below, and it'll give it a nice steam bath as it bakes and keep it nice and level. It's like having a bain-marie or a water bath, but it's way less risky. Just above, we're gonna add the cheesecake. Now this bakes. In you go. My cheesecake cooled overnight. It looks amazing. But now we have to make the pecan pie topping. You don't want to do this too far in advance because it'll cool down and harden and it won't look gooey and amazing. So before serving, 2 cups of pecans onto a baking sheet, and this goes into an oven that's nice and hot, about 350. I would give this 4 minutes in the oven and then using tongs, not your fingers, move those around, give them another 4 minutes. The outside ones tend to burn. You can tell they're done when they're fragrant and have taken on a beautiful, slightly deeper color. Here you go. While our pecans are toasting, I'm gonna make the caramel. It's so quick and delicious. Into a larger pan, 1/2 cup or 113 grams of unsalted butter. You could use salted butter if you want, just use a 1/4 teaspoon of salt instead of 1/2 teaspoon. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Before I pop this onto the stove to melt, I wanna measure out 3/4 cup of brown sugar. That's 165 grams. There we go. You also wanna measure out 2/3 cup of heavy cream, have that at the ready, along with your cinnamon and vanilla. Now, let's pop this over medium heat and get it nice and melty.
وجدنا الحل الدائم لآلام الروماتيزم التي يصعب تحملها. لا داعي للعمل.
Once your butter's nice and melty, add your brown sugar and just whisk it in. And you want to stir this continuously, nothing should be burning here. And what you're looking for is the sugar's basically dissolved and it's bubbling away. You'll still see little granules of sugar. It's not going to be like a smooth caramel, but it's in the butter, it's bubbling away and really happy. And I'll tell you, this isn't a little funky until it looks amazing. So don't panic at this step, okay? So you can see the texture is not like a beautiful silky amazingness. It's like butter with brown sugar partially dissolved in there, but that's okay. The cream is gonna fix everything. It's bubbling away. I'm gonna add the cream in now. And also adding in the cinnamon. Wow, look at that caramel. Between you and me, this caramel got a little dark and I'm worried it might have gone to like a hard crack stage or something. If you're concerned, I took this off heat, dip it in a spoon, dip that into some cold water, and test with your finger. Perfect. If your caramel hardened in the cold water, it got too hot, you can use it to make candy or praline or something, but it's not gonna be good for this and you have to start over again. This darkened up, but it's nice and soft, so I know it'll be perfect. I actually love dark caramel too, because it has more of that like complex sugar flavor. While I was making the caramel, my nuts were ready. I took them out of the oven. They are amazing. Dump those right in. Stir those pecans in, and you're gonna cook this for about a minute. Wow, look how amazing this looks. That's great. Remove from heat. If you want to serve this sooner, plop this into a glass bowl or a cold pie dish. Let it cool down so it's almost room temperature, just slightly warm. If you want to serve this in a while, you can leave it in the pan. It'll cool down more slowly. Basically, you don't want to like melt your cheesecake with boiling caramel or burn people's mouths, but it shouldn't be completely cold either, because then it'll be a bit thick and too viscous. I transferred my pecan caramel mixture into an empty dish. It's already cooled down 20 degrees in like 1 minute, so it really does make a difference getting it out of that hot pan. Now, grab your cheesecake, grab a cake stand. I want to show you how to unmount this because sometimes it can go wrong and I don't want that to happen to you. First off, grab a sharp knife, this is a palette knife, and you're gonna run it along the edge. If the cheesecake is stuck to the pan and you unlock it, it'll crack that cheesecake wide open. Sure, it's never happened to me before, but just in case, I don't want that to happen to you. Now, open that collar. Oh, that looks so pretty. I love it. Run your knife along the bottom. It usually sticks at the edge just a little bit. And then, it's actually sticking in the middle too. So, grab a larger knife or opposite spatula, slide it off carefully in one confident motion, center it up, remove the crumbs, and now we're ready to pour our warm, not hot caramel mixture on top. Spread it out and it's ready to cut. Push those pecans with your knife like a bulldozer and slice straight down. That way you'll get a nice clean cut. That is so good. Oh my gosh. The cheesecake, it's like it doesn't exist. It just dissolves in this puff of magic. Crunchy, amazing toasted pecans wrapped in caramel. My heart is racing, my mouth is watering. I hope you get a chance to make this recipe, and